All right, so it looks like we are live. Welcome to the WMMA Scene Report, episode number 27. This is a weekly show, or almost weekly. I do skip some weeks if there's nothing really going on, where we go over the latest in fight reviews, fight news, and then, of course, we do some previews, and sometimes we'll have a discussion topic, which I do have tonight. So, first up, let's go over some of the latest fight results from this past weekend. All right, CFFC had their 76th event Friday night. It was available on UFC Fight Pass. You can still watch the replay there. They had two ladies' fights. First up was at 125 pounds. Erin Blanchfield defeated Gabriella Golfin via submission due to Americana lock at 3 minutes 20 seconds of round number one. Blanchfield improved to 4-1. Golfin fell to 2-1. This was a straight-up flawless victory by Blanchfield. I did a review on both of the fights from this card. I highly recommend go watch the fights and then watch my review and let me know what you think about them. Next up on the same card, Jamie Colleen defeated Marcelo Giantomasi via unanimous decision. Colleen improved to 5-3. Giantomasi fell to 2-3. This is a very good fight, a little bit back and forth. First round was very close. Second round was a lot of Giantomasi. And then third round was all Jamie Colleen, arguably a 10-8 round. Pretty good fight. Nice to see Jamie Colleen bounce back with a win. Next up, after that, was Bellator 222. They had three ladies' fights, almost all in a row. First up, Lindsey Van Zant defeated Reina Kubota in a catchweight fight of 125 pounds. Defeated her via submission due to rear naked choke. At 4 minutes, 4 seconds, round 1 of 3. Sorry, guys, there's a mosquito. Don't mind me. Van Zant improved to 6-1, while Kubota fell to 8-3. I thought Reina did okay for her first time in a cage. I thought she did use the cage well to get back up from the ground a couple times. But her ground game is still lacking. I mean, it's a shame that she's had 11 fights already, but because of the matchup she's had such a limited ground game. Hopefully she's back to the drawing board. At first, after the fight, her first tweet seemed like she wasn't sure if MMA was for her. Now it seems like she's ready to go back to it. In the latest tweet, seems like she knows she has a lot to work on. Next up, at 125 pounds, Valerie Lareda defeated Larkin Dash via unanimous decision. Lareda climbed 2-0. Dash fell to 0-2. This was what you would expect out of two fighters on only their second pro fight. Honestly, actually, Dash's performance was more amateurish than pro. I did a review on it. If you haven't watched it yet, you can skip it. Skip the fight itself. I watched it for you, so go ahead and watch the review then. And then finally, at 120, looks like this is a catch weight of 128. It looked like, okay. Catch weight 128 pounds. Taylor Turner defeated Heather Hardy via TKO due to ground and pound. 3 minutes, 53 seconds of round one. Turner improved to 4-5. Hardy fell to 2-2. This is another one. If you didn't watch it, you don't have to. I watched it for you. Go watch the review. Hardy got into MMA way too late. Has no real skill for MMA. I mean, she's gotten beat by a striker. She's gotten beat by a ground fighter now. Or she's gotten beat on the ground now. She's 37. She got into it too late. I mean, it sucks that women's boxing is in the crappy state that it is. That the pay sucks and it's hard finding opponents. But she just got in MMA too late. I mean, 37 years old. She has no real chance now. Sucks for Hardy. I mean, it really does. Anyway, moving along. One Championship had an event Saturday morning. They had a women's Muay Thai bout. We're not going to talk about that. They had one women's MMA fight at 115 pounds. Itsuki Hirata defeated Angeli Sabanel via submission due to Americana. at 2 minutes and 59 seconds, round 1 of 3. So this is second Americana in a little over 12 hours. Hirata improves to, Topology says 4-0. I thought it was her pro debut. Angelique Sabanal falls to 1-2. Yeah, I thought this was Hirata's pro debut. They said it was her pro debut because she was in a tournament in Japan, a mini tournament, to get signed by One Championship. And I thought that was actually an amateur thing. I don't know. Topology gets a lot right, but sometimes they're wrong on this. I don't know. So very nice work by Hirata against one of the better up-and-comers out of the Philippines in Sabanal. Hirata looked very dominant. Next up at Road FC, they had a pair of women's fights. This was Road FC 54. You can watch it on, you know what, these fights are up on YouTube now because these were on the prelims, which were not aired live in the U.S. I had to watch it on a Korean site using a VPN. First up at 135 pounds, Rowan Pilger defeated Ha-Jong Park via submission due to armbar. 2 minutes, 25 seconds, round 1 of 2. Pilger climbed to 3-0. Park fell to 0-1. This is Pilger's second win in about a month. She could be a growing star for Road FC. She lives over there. She teaches over there. And she speaks Korean with a native ability. So she could be a growing star for them. Seems like her fan base is growing. Then at atomweight, 105 pounds, Jong-un Park defeated Eun-hye Kim via submission due to arm triangle choke at 2 minutes, 51 seconds, round 1 of 2. So I think this was the second arm triangle choke submission this weekend. Or no, I'm sorry. It wasn't the second arm triangle choke. This was the second person to get choked out unconscious this weekend. Reina Kubota went unconscious fighting Lindsey Van Zandt, and then Eun-hye Kim went unconscious against Jong-un Park. So Park climbs to 5-6. Kim fell to 0-1. Now, Kim was a late notice, like week of the fight replacement. Not going to hold that against her. And she looked very good on the feet. She has, I believe, a 5-0 kickboxing record. I'd like to see if she sticks around with MMA and see if she can work on her ground game and see what she does with that, because she was getting the better of Park on the feet. I thought she did very well. So we'll see. Anyway, nice to see Jong-un Park get a win, even though it wasn't against the opponent I wanted to see her against. She was supposed to fight Yuri Shim. Yuri Shim apparently got injured sparring, took a kick to the body, hurt her kidneys, and spent a few days in the hospital. So hopefully she gets better and returns to fighting shape soon. And then finally, Dana White's Tuesday night bullshit. Hannah Goldie defeated Callie Robbins at 115 pounds via unanimous decision. Goldie, however, did not get signed to the UFC. I'm not a big fan of that show. It's basically Dana. They should just call it the Dana White Slobber Knocker Just Bleed show, because that's really all he wants out of that. So out of my picks for the weekend, I got 6 of 9 correct. So I called Colleen and Blanchfield to win at CFFC. Got both of those right. At Bellator. Bellator was where I did bad. I picked Laredo to win. Got that right. I picked Reina to win. Got that wrong. Not complaining, though. That was a nice win for Van Zandt. And then I picked Hardy to win. And I'm not feeling bad about that one either. At Red FC, I picked the correct winners there, Pilger and Park. Of course, had Yuri Shim fought Park, I was going to pick Yuri Shim. At One Championship, I picked Hirata. Got that right. And then at Dana White Contender Series, I picked Robbins and got that wrong. So 6 out of 9, not too shabby. Okay, so that was the fight results for this weekend. Let's take a look at the news. So I'm just going to read these straight off my handy dandy mead composition book here that I use for everything involving this channel. Kind of old school like that, I guess. First up, Zoila Frausto, 14-5, is set to face Reina Cordoba, 9-1, at Combate Americas, August 2nd in Fresno, California. Zoila Frausto was originally supposed to fight on the Combate Reina's card back in April. That fell through for her, and then she's supposed to fight this month, and that fell through again. So her fight's getting pushed back to August. Hopefully she can stay in shape and keep her weight down long enough, because Frausto has had weight problems in the past. Number 2 at 115 pounds, Tisha Torres, 10-4, is set to fight Marina Rodriguez, 11-0-1, at Ultimate Fight Night Montevideo in Uruguay. That goes down August 10th. At the same event, Rachel Ostovich, 4-5, is set to face Veronica Macedo, 5-3-1, and that's at flyweight, 125 pounds. And then finally for that event, Valentina Shevchenko, 17-3, will defend her 125-pound flyweight title against Liz Carmouche, 13-6. Now, it's nice to see a champion that is willing to take a fairly fast turnaround. However, I'm not a big fan of this fight because, one, it screws over Roxanne Modafferi, who's supposed to face Carmouche at San Antonio. Yeah, San Antonio. Forget the date of that one. And then also, why are they wasting a title fight in Uruguay? Look, no offense to the fine people of Uruguay, but as of 2017, I had to look this up. As of 2017, their population was 3.457 million. Why is the UFC even holding an event there in the first place? Other than hoping to bring in the Spanish-speaking audience from the surrounding areas. But then why are they wasting a title fight there? Like their first event in mainland China featured a non-title fight heavyweight fight. So why are they putting a title fight in the little-ass Uruguay when they wouldn't put a title fight in mainland China? That's really my big complaint about that. That and Roxanne Modafferi now needing a new opponent for San Antonio. And I hope they book her one. They haven't mentioned anything about that yet. Breathe, Chuck. Okay. At 125 pounds, Angela Lee, 9-1, is set to return versus Michelle Nicolini, 5-2, set for one championship Masters of Destiny. That's July 12th in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So Angela Lee not returning to 115 pounds yet to defend her title there. Nope, she's going to stay at 125 pounds versus a very savvy grappler in Michelle Nicolini. Both of these fighters are coming off a loss, so it's a must-win for both of them. I think if it stays on the feet, Lee will win. But if Nicolini gets it to the ground, I think she's definitely a better ground fighter than Angela Lee. Next up, at 115 pounds, Gian Radzuan, 4-1, is set to take on Jo Marie Torres, and that's going to be at that same event, July 12th in Kuala Lumpur. Both of these fighters are coming off of losses. Gian Radzuan, first loss of her career. However, Jo Marie Torres started out 4-0, and now she has lost 3 straight. So she is in a must-win situation in Kuala Lumpur. So that'll be an interesting fight to watch just for that storyline alone. And at 115 pounds, B Win, 5-3, is set to take on Bozena Antoniar, 2-1. That is also on the Kuala Lumpur card. So 3 ladies fights in Malaysia next month, July 12th. So that'll be one to keep an eye on. B Win, of course, is a King of the Cage veteran, and Bozena Antoniar is, I believe, one of only like 2 female MMA fighters currently out of Myanmar, formerly known as Burma. And I believe Antoniar is a, what do they call that? It's the national sport there. Wet lay. Wet lay is basically bare knuckle Muay Thai with headbutts. It is awesome to watch, okay? Because it has all the skill of Muay Thai plus an extra, they refer to it as extra limb because of the head. And it's bare knuckle for whatever reason. So it's pretty awesome. In a way, it's more traditional than Muay Thai. In that way, at least. Anyway, next up at bantamweight, Sarah Morris, 5-5, is set to take on the debuting Liana Jojua, 7-2, at UFC 242. That's September 7th in Abu Dhabi. Unusual choice of fight for Abu Dhabi. Honestly, I'm surprised they're having a women's fight there, period. It's a pretty conservative country. I mean, granted, well, it's a pretty conservative country for the natives. They pretty much let foreigners run fairly wild there. But I'm surprised they're letting women fight there. That should be an interesting one. I'm going to take Jojua early, but I'll have to watch some tape before I decide on who's going to really win. And finally, Sarah McMahon was set to face Nico Montano at UFC Fight Night Sacramento, July 13th. However, Sarah McMahon revealed via her Instagram that she is out due to injury. However, Juliana Pena has made a verbal agreement to replace Nico Montano. So neither of these fighters have fought. Montano and Pena have fought since 2017. Montano first due to injuries, and then she missed weight badly, so bad that her fight was canceled last year. Whereas Pena, on the other hand, was out for maternity leave. She got pregnant, had a kid, and decided to take a little extra time off to make sure that she was back in right shape. So hopefully that fight gets signed. It hasn't been made official yet by the UFC until the contract is signed. So that's it for the news and announcements. So let's look at what's coming up this weekend. So in less than 12 hours, really about 8 hours from now, One Championship, One Warrior Series 6 is going to go down in Singapore. You can watch it live on the One app. It has 2 ladies fights at 115 pounds. Michelle Ferreira, 3-0, is set to take on Satomi Takano at 12-11. Now, this looks like a mismatch on paper, but man, Michelle Ferreira's last fight, she came out, destroyed her opponent in, I believe, the 3rd round. Whereas Takano is a longtime veteran. However, I don't think she barely has any wins against someone with a winning record. I'm going to take, it's picks time. We're going to go with Ferreira to win. Ferreira. And then next up, also at 115 pounds, Ji-Yeon Seo is returning 6-4 versus Edia Johanny, 2-2. We're going to go with Seo on this. I picked Seo last time, and she let me down. Needed to shore up her defensive wrestling, grappling more. But I'm going to take her versus Johanny. The opponents that Johanny has been facing she hasn't looked very impressive against them either. What's up next? Combate Americas, their Fresno event. They'll be in, Hidalgo, Texas at the State Farm Arena. That's Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern time. You can watch it live on DAZN, or if you have, what's the name of Univision on your cable, you can watch it with Spanish language commentary. They have a single fight at 115 pounds. Paulina Vargas is returning 4-0, and she is taking on Desiree Dirty Des Yanez, 4-1. I haven't seen much of Yanez, but I'm going to take Vargas to win. Looking at the records and who they fought, I got to go with Vargas. Now, Vargas, however, needs to protect her chin. She has a bad habit of getting clipped in her fights. She usually recovers pretty well, and they're usually more like flash knockdowns or just like slight getting stunned. but she needs to protect her chin. But I'm picking her to win. Next up, Bellator 223, a.k.a. Bellator London, has a pair of women's fights. First up is Denise Kielholtz, 2-2, taking on Brioni Tyrell, 4-3-1. Still got this mosquito here. I'm going to go with Kielholtz. I'm taking a risk here. I think I got it. Nope. No, I did. Still missed it. Anyway, I'm taking Kielholtz. It's a risk. I feel confident. I don't really feel confident. But, I mean, Tyrell doesn't have the best record either. We'll go with Kielholtz. I'll take the risk. I'll take the hit on my record. And then at 120, also at 125 pounds, Kate Jackson, 10-3-1, taking on Lena Ovchinnikova, 12-5. I didn't realize their records were this close. I thought Jackson had a lot less fights. Jackson, of course, is an Ultimate Fighter veteran from the second season. They had 115-pound fighters. I got to go with Jackson on this one, and I'll tell you why. Ovchinnikova tends to do really well, and then she goes full-on potato in her fights and suddenly starts fighting stupid and finds a way to lose. She has a habit of grasping defeat from the jaws of victory. So we're going to go with Kate Jackson. And then finally, in the UFC, on ESPN Plus 12, Moicano versus Korean Zombie, a.k.a. UFC Fight Night Greenville. I believe there are 3 ladies' fights here. First up, Molly McCann, 8-2, taking on Ariana Lipsky, 11-4. That's at flyweight. I'm gonna go with Lipsky here. I think she's better than what she showed against Joanne Calderwood. And also, McCann just sucks. And I don't mean to fight her bash here, but she's not good. She's not UFC caliber. I mean, she won her fight versus Priscilla Cachoeira, but even that one, I think, should have gone to Cachoeira. So I'm going with Lipsky on that one. Up next, Ashley Yoder, 6-4 versus Shuri Kondo, 6-2. This is a loser leaves town fight, but I'm going with Yoder. I'm not confident in either fighter here, but I'll go with Yoder. I think she's the stronger wrestler of the two. And then Andrea Lee versus Montana De La Rosa at 125 pounds. Lee is 10-2. De La Rosa 10-4. I'm picking Lee, but I'll be cheering for De La Rosa. I'm just not a big fan of KGB. I don't know if it's the past drug use, her defense of her neo-Nazi husband. Her skills are good, but not great. I think Montana De La Rosa has shown more growth in the short time that she's been with the UFC than KGB has shown throughout her whole career. Also, I wasn't a big fan of Lee basically getting fed gimme matches throughout her LFA stint. But we'll take Lee for the win there. Oh, you know what? There was one other fight I forgot to mention in the news. Not a big deal here. Mina Karobi, 12-5, is taking on Yeji Lee in a catchweight at Shudo's anniversary event in Tokyo. That's next month. This is mostly interesting because there's going to be like a 22, 23-year age difference. Lee is like 19 or 20, whereas Karobi is 42 years old. Both fighters coming in, they desperately need a win. Karobi has dropped her last 2, whereas Lee has dropped her last 3. Honestly, it's a riskier fight for Yeji Lee because Karobi is a pretty strong grappler, and she's beaten other Korean prospects before. Lee was a prospect. It's hard to call her that. I mean, granted, she's 19, 20. It's hard to dismiss her as a prospect, but early pick, we'll go with Karobi. I just don't have faith in Ye Ji Lee's gym, her training anymore. So that's it for the news and the weekend preview, and we did the weekend review. So it's discussion time. So I want to talk about, if you saw the photo, the thumbnail I put up, Yan Xiaonan, she has 4 straight wins, but if you look at the UFC rankings, and I got to bring them up here real quick. Excuse me. If you look at the UFC rankings, her fight was last weekend, not this past weekend, but the weekend before. It's her 4th straight win, and she hasn't even broken in like number 15 yet. Okay, now her wins were all by decision. I understand that, and none of them were ranked. I understand that as well. Okay, Hill came in as the last minute as a fairly late replacement, like I think less than a month out. But still, how do you get to 4-0 in the UFC, even in a division as stacked as 115, and not get even breaking like number 15 out of the top 15? How? I don't understand it myself personally. Okay, so let's look at Jan's wins. She's beat Kylan Curran, Viviane Pereira. Granted, those two are both out of the UFC now. Shuri Kondo, who was coming off a loss herself, but it was coming off her first loss. And then she beat Angela Hill. So that's 4 straight wins. Let's see, we got someone in the chat. PCBH 167 says, I completely agree. I'm shocked that Yan isn't ranked. She should get a title shot because she's on a 4-fight. Okay, I don't know about a title shot, but she should at least be in the rankings. Okay. So here's a bullet point number 1. There are 3 fighters ranked number 11 through 15 that are coming off of losses. Let's see. Random Courtney Casey coming off a loss. Karolina Kowalkiewicz coming off of 3 losses. Felice Herrig coming off a loss as well. So that's 3 fighters, 12 through 15, that are coming off of losses. Then you further look at the rankings. Let's see. We got so Kowalkiewicz just moved down 3. She went from 10 to 13. Felice Herrig stayed exactly where she was at, number 12. Grasso moved up number 2 after beating Kowalkiewicz. Calvillo, however, moved up 1 spot, even though she just bowed out of her latest fight and only has 1 fight in the last year. I wouldn't have had a problem with Calvillo staying at 11 and Grasso moving up to number 10. Granted, that's a little bit desperate move up, and whatever. PCBH 167 says Zan is on a 3-fight winning streak and she's in the top 5 and getting a title shot. Yan should at least be in the top 5. Well, here's the thing, though. Zan has actually beaten a top 10 opponent. I believe Torres was number 5 or number 6 when Zan beat her. Zan also has 1 finish in the UFC to Jan's number 0. Also, PCBH Pena, that fight is not formally official yet, but it has a verbal agreement. So yeah, there are 3 fighters ranked above Yan currently that are coming off of losses to Zan's 4-fight win streak within the UFC. Honestly, there seems to be no logic whatsoever to the UFC rankings. And granted, the UFC will even tell you, we don't go by the rankings. Of course, in parentheses, it's silent. In the parentheses, it says, unless they're convenient to us. So yeah, there's no logic behind these rankings. And then it seems like some fighters are definitely favorites of the ranking panel. Some fighters definitely get pushed up because of politics and whatnot, what have you. I mean, for example, let's look at, okay, in the top 5. Tatiana Suarez is number 2. Nino Ansarov is number 3. Now, I agree with Suarez being ranked ahead of Ansarov now with the win. However, before this most recent fight, Suarez's best win was against at the time the number 6 fighter Carlos Esparza. Suarez went from, I believe, number 8. I forget what her ranking was. However, she beat the number 6 and got moved up to number 4. First of all, you should never move up past the person that you beat. Never move up past that person's ranking. But she went from number 6 to number 4 right away. And then they moved her up to number, I think they had her tied with Nina Ansaroff, who had a better win over than Suarez did, because Ansaroff beat Claudia Gadelha. Claudia Gadelha is ranked higher than Grasso. And then as the fight got closer, they moved up Suarez ahead of Ansaroff. That should not have happened, okay? They should have left it as a tie at worst. However, Ansaroff should have been ranked higher going into the fight. So obviously, but Suarez was the one getting the push, and the media favoritism going into that fight. Ansaroff, they barely talked about Nina Ansaroff. It was all about Suarez. Granted, Suarez got the win, so congrats to her. Can't hate for that. But I can hate the BS behind the UFC rankings. You know, they have this so-called media panel that seems about worthless. They're about worthless as 2 tits on a bull. And it seems like some of these rankings get moved up based on what the UFC wants to do as far as their matchmaking goes. Now, they say they have nothing to do with it. Personally, I call bullshit. Because as much as they like to say that they don't go by their own rankings, they kind of do. I mean, otherwise, during the tell of the tape and whatnot, or when they put out their little graphics advertising the fights, why bother putting the rankings at all? So they like to use the rankings based on their own convenience. PCBH says, I'd like to see Jan fight Alexa Grasso or Carolina. Oh man, Carolina would take a loss to Jan, I think. Grasso would be an interesting fight, though. Carolina needs to take a fight against someone who is not ranked right now. She might not even be long for the UFC. I mean, before her last fight, she signed a 6-fight contract with them, but I think her days in the UFC are numbered at the point. Leon Cavo says, I would love to see Suarez versus Rose. That would be a good fight, and I would favor Suarez in that fight. Rose does not. You're talking about Rose versus another pressure fighter and a strong grappler. Does not bode well for Rose Namajunas there. PCBH 167. I really respect what you do for WMMA. I love watching your videos. Well, thank you, man. Hey, thanks. Flattery will get you everywhere with me. But thanks. I like doing this as well. You know. And if you ever see me skip fights or take a weekend off, or if it takes me a while to put up new videos, please understand this is my hobby. And the moment it starts to feel like an obligation or like work, I take a step back and go, well, basically I'm like, listen, I'm not going to do this if it's going to feel like work, because this is my hobby and I do this for the ladies. But I don't want this to start feeling like work. It's a hobby. Would I like to make a little bit of scratch back on it? Sure, eventually. But I'm happy with the slow incremental growth that I'm getting right now. Anyway, that's really all I have for it. I think Yan Xiaonan should be ranked. That's really all I have for tonight, though. Leon Cavo, thoughts on Chris Cyborg being a free agent? Do you think she'll go Bellator or boxing? If she goes anywhere, and I doubt she'll go anywhere, because she's going to go where the money is. As much as she likes to talk, she's going to go where the money is, because Ray Elby is in her ear, and Ray Elby is going to want her to go where the money is. If she goes anywhere else, she'll go Bellator. She's not going to go boxing. She's not going to make any money in boxing. Heather Hardy is a champ in boxing. She can't make any freaking money in it. And yeah, there's no money in boxing. Some people think she might go to one championship. I don't think one championship is going to win her. What are they going to do with her? However, one championship did sign Denise Kielholtz to what do you call it? To fight Muay Thai there. She could go get, not Denise Kielholtz, Jarena Bars. They signed Jarena Bars to the Super Series, which is their kickboxing and Muay Thai fights. She might pursue a rematch with Bars in one championship. That would be the only reason I would see Cyborg going to one. PCBH says if Cyborg beats Felicia Spencer, then she'll probably stay in the UFC. Yeah, I see her beating Spencer. I think her stand-up's too much for Spencer. And I definitely see her staying with the UFC. Because who else is going to pay her as much? You know, she can cry about the bad treatment from the UFC all they want. Okay, her bad treatment consisted of mean words. Mean words. Meanwhile, they were literally paying her $90,000 to fight in Invicta. I'll tell you what. You pay me $90,000 to fight in another promotion, a smaller promotion, and I'll fight wherever you want me to fight. I'll fight whoever you want me to fight for 90 grand. That was the most money she had ever made up to that point. So I see Cyborg stand with the UFC no matter what. Unless they decide to ditch 145 completely, which it seems like they're not ready to. I don't see why not, though. To me, their 145 division is a waste of time. I'd much rather see him bring in 105. Atom weight. I've talked about that numerous times on his channel. Anyway, guys, that's it for me tonight. Good night of fight. Good weekend of fights coming up. 3 UFC fights. 1 Warrior Series tomorrow morning. Combate, Bellator and UFC on Saturday. In the meantime, stay classy. And what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMMA now, the best, fastest growing women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. And we'll see you next time.